Okay, I'm really excited to be here today, live in front of a real audience. The last live audience was this year in July in Düsseldorf, with considerably fewer people because it was a very small room and they couldn't seat as many people as I would have liked to. So it's a great feeling to be here today. So I'm here for you with Zeitgeist impulses. I would like to illustrate the trends of the new season. And I'm also here to introduce you to this here. You don't know that live and physically because the CB Impulse of last season, and only very few people attended the event online. So it's the live premiere of the first real physical cosmetics business color card, and we're so happy to share it with you. So everything I'm going to present to you today is related to the color card and will be documented in the color card. So first of all, I would like to give you a little background information. I would like to introduce you to the framework of what we're going to discuss today. So we need to look ahead into the future. So we created a new word, hopetimism, a combination of hope and optimism. So the first chapter of combining hope and optimism, this is what we need to look ahead into the future. If you've never visited the Futurium in Berlin, it was inaugurated even before the pandemic, but only very few people have actually attended because it was closed off completely. It's a very futuristic building close to the Berlin Central Station. You hardly see it from a distance, but if you stand right in front and see the clouds mirrored in the glass, it's called the house of the futures, like of future things awaiting us. So this is what we would like to express with hope and optimism. After the last 18 months, our point of view has changed fundamentally because we have had to learn that our view of the world is totally different than what we thought. We experienced something that we've never experienced before as humanity, as a large group of people that got us closer together, made us suffer together. We can see that the big sphere is dependent on a very, very, very small sphere, which is only 1 trillion part of this big sphere here. And we have to learn that everything is correlated. This fundamentally changes our perspective. We're not the dominant species on this planet. We're part of a larger thing. And the virus is also an equal part of its DNA is within us. And we have to understand this correlation. It's very hard to understand because it's highly abstract. It's something that's really strange, something that we experience as a humanity. As humanity, we coexist, basically, with other species. We know we all belong together. We're not better and we're not stronger than they are. So Brand 1 had a great cover in May where you have all these words here like fuck Tinder, fuck hipster, fuck vegan. So we say goodbye to an era where we've basically, found everything was like fuck off. So we say, okay, that's it. That's the bottom line. Let's look ahead. No more of that. We're positive. So let's not get annoyed by each and everything. Let's just look ahead. Let's change our view of things. Let's find a way out. Let's find new direction. And these were the two covers that followed. So getting out of that situation seems to be something completely new. We have to learn anew. It's not about hugging trees, it's about hugging other people. How can we find our way back to each other? And maybe this passion for life is something that we all have in common, but it's very difficult to find a way to actually live by that at the moment because we all have to keep a distance. A young painter from Halle in Germany painted the painting on the left-hand side. So there is like some empty space. There is like a gap, something we cannot hug. And the Museum of the Fine Arts in Leipzig, Germany, has actually had the neon letters on the stairs, "Will I be missed?" ? So that was something I truly felt. Did we miss all that? Yes, I missed it. I really missed meeting people like what we do here in this room. So it's great. It's new. This is something I found in the supermarket right around the corner from where I live. So these are young artists that couldn't show actually their year's work at the Academy of Fine Arts because nobody was allowed to attend. So they simply put up their paintings at the Edeka supermarket chain. So it was so great to visit the Edeka supermarket at night and be able to like see a real artist exhibition. So they found different ways to publish their works to become visible. And accessibility, it's accessible for everyone. So in a situation like this, how can we ensure accessibility that is not exclusively online? So supermarkets are a great place. Of course, shopping is a culture of its own, but it's a totally different story here. So we should celebrate openness, and a great collection does just that. It's called Pigalle. It's a label from Paris, and they issued a collaboration with a bicycle company from Holland, Van Moof. And they celebrate freedom with great bikes and a great collection. And this openness, being open for new things, this is exactly what we need. And in fashion, this is what's happening right now. This is the last show in Copenhagen. So this passion for life is expressed in very intense colors. And they called it dopamine dressing, something that inspires our senses, that really gets us closer to reality, gets us in a very positive mood. We need more dopamine moments, dopamine options, actually to make us more open for new things, to liberate our senses and make us ready for the future. So we have to understand that hyper-consumption, which is a phase that has actually grown over the last 30 years, Andreas Gorski had that picture in 1999. It's called 99 Cents, and Barbara Kruger created the work of art visible on the right-hand side. I shop, therefore I am. So these are pictures of an era that's now over and done with. And this is something we have to learn. My colleague, Kant Tillison from the German Fashion Institute wrote a book which is called Consumption, Why We Buy What We Don't Actually Need. So useless, purposeless consumption, these times are over. So this won't necessarily mean that supermarkets will have to close, that mass production is over and done with. But this era, this zeitgeist, the spirit of just purchasing for the purpose of it in order to provide reason for our mere existence, this is over. We need circularity, the capacity to be circular, which doesn't mean mass consumption without purpose, but actually targeted consumption. We have to work together to create circularity. A student at the Academy of Arts had produced woven artwork from polyester. Why did you create me? Am I trash now? And all I want is to be used. So this is the language of the product. It's recycled polyester. It's great woven tissue, but we ask questions about consumption before even creating circularity. Fashion, and I'm very active in fashion, is a big issue because clothes don't go anywhere. We don't have a green dot. We don't have any proper recycling management, and the industry has not yet achieved circularity. But there are positive examples, like producing favorite clothes. Armed Angels, a cologne company, I think it was a year ago, no, even more than a year ago, at the last fashion show at Berlin, they introduced us to this shirt, which is the first circular T-shirt in the world. And the booth only had one shirt, nothing else, which is from recycled cotton. This was a pure cotton shirt. And now what they sell commercially is a mix of 50% recycled viscose and 50% recycled cotton, because commercial stability is even better with that. It's very exciting. So we've seen the first circular products, the first recyclable products. So this is something we need to continue. This is something we have to spread the word about. So frugality, creative. So this is an example from an exhibition of German and French architects in the German-French border region. They were thinking about how frugality, being frugal, being simple, be more than pure simpleness, but still special, nice, still spark joy. Using objects or things that are from monomaterials. Monomatter, this is something I mentioned in the years before, still is something that's important for the future. Producing objects from just one single material makes it easier to recycle them. You see wood, aluminum, or 3D printed recycled plastic materials. These are all options to reuse things and to put them in a different light, maybe even use bionic design. A designer from England created an algorithm to impact the cell growth of plants. He imitates that in order to create 3D printing programs and be able to print new shapes. So bringing technology and biology together is a big thing for the future. We need crossover thinking. And maybe you'll find a new field that exactly fits your company, your product. Those people have successfully done that. Their name is Hyper-individualisation. They're based here in Munich. And they used artificial intelligence to conceptualize designs that are way too complex than a human brain could actually think them. The bike helmet on the left-hand side, for example, is a kind of cellular multi-layer structure that would be way too complex for a human brain to come up with. But working with artificial intelligence, you can design such structures perfectly that are equipped with properties that are very close to nature, but are still technologically advanced. And I think it's so remarkable. I think it's great that you think that way. Simple things like a helmet and complex things like a rocket. So those are both equal, and this could have a huge impact on our everyday culture if we think in such a direction. Another field of research is called biomaterialism. So this is a material futures example from CSM London. That is 1 year old because I took that picture at the last London trade show. A young student worked with researchers from Sweden, and she used cellulose in order to grow these little crystals here. And it's not just beautiful because they are biodegradable, so you can reuse them and use them for other purposes, but they have structural colors, which means they're not colored, but the surface texture of those little patterns creates the color when the light shines on it. So this is also a task for the future, not just use pigments for coloration, but develop new textures that the color reflects itself from the light. So you know that from, for example, seashells or from the big blue butterflies that you find in tropical regions. The butterflies are not blue, but the surface texture reflects the light in a way that it shines in blue. So we need more of these phenomena in order to handle materials in a totally different way. So thinking about circularity also makes us rethink products' lifespans. Short-lived, long-lasting, circular. They can all be correlated. On the left-hand side, that's something that I found at the Milan Trade Fair. So this is a hospital gown, but a hospital gown produced from bio-based plastic materials, which is 100% recyclable or degradable. So just imagine what would have happened if we had had that before the pandemic hit in the first place. This is it's totally fit for the future. This is single use. So actually, everything that branded manufacturer producing single-use gowns, that should all be from exactly that material. That will be a revolution for fashion. And I know research projects in textile design where they try to produce fleece from linen, which was supposed to be impossible in the past, but it has become possible. It has become a reality now, and it's so exciting. Long-lasting, again, Milan, a massive chair produced from wood, and the chair is so massive that it will never break down in your entire lifetime. We know that from our grandparents, but we hardly ever find that on IKEA, for example. We won't find such a chair at the IKEA furniture store, for example. On the right-hand side, you have a circular woven structure from Shimaseki from Japan. And a similar machine is also operated by Stoll here in Germany, and the Stoll machine can also have this 3D knitting. So you put the thread into the machine, you have a double or triple layer, you have a three-dimensional object that is being knitted. So there will be actually no seams, it will be knitted complete, right? Come with arms. You don't have any waste material because you only have to weave in the end of the thread. So actually all our clothes should be made like that. I worked at Expo 2000 in 1998, and back then that's when they invented those machines. But have you ever heard about circular 3D knitting machines? Well, if not, we did something wrong, because this machine has been around for more than 20 years now. Biophilia is also a mega trend. So those pictures are from an exhibition in Wien at Fondation Bel Air, where Olafur Eliasson had a great exhibition. He opened up the exhibition house at the facade and he flooded it together with a landscaper, and he had nature flow in great green. The inside of the house was illuminated in blue. It was a great color spectacle and was actually supposed to remind us how intergrown nature and culture are. Because nature is not nature on Earth, but it's our culture, because we influence it, we shape it. So, and that's what this exhibition was dedicated to, with these great colors. Nature is culture, so we're the ones who are supposed to tend to it. We have to create empathy. We have to feel for what happens with nature. We should not just watch what happens, but we should develop a love for nature, empathy for nature, because we're part of nature, and we should love ourselves too. Here in the middle, you see the sky. Unfortunately, you probably can't see it. It's the sky by Gerhard Richter. It was painted in 1978 and was shown in public for the first time last year. And I was crazy enough, actually. After the first exhibition I attended, I actually went to Bundesgartenschau, the garden show. Actually, I'm 55 years of age, so I can go to the Federal Garden Show, because normally people say that only old people go there. And apart from all the flower beds, I found this here. Our next climate control unit that we have to learn something about, trees. Climate control unions are zone killers, and I think it was so exciting, and I would never have expected to find something like that at the Federal Garden Show, because I could learn something about dry zones that we will actually see in the middle of Germany where I live, because the middle of Germany will probably evolve back to a state that we had 2,000 years ago, like savanna. We only know that from Africa, obviously. So these kinds of zones will be probably very strange to find that here, right in the middle of Germany. And an exhibition at New York's MoMA Museum. It was not an art exhibition, but it was by Rem Koolhaas, an architect from the Netherlands, who was thinking about the cities of the future. It's not all about meta-urbanization. The future is the countryside, what we consider to be rural areas, because big cities could not live without the rural areas surrounding them. So actually, there is a bigger correlation here. A growth in the big cities would not be possible without considering the rural areas around that. So this is a true shift paradigm, basically, because we were all talking about condensation, getting it closer together, but the past has shown us actually that this does not work in urban areas. So we have to consider the countryside, actually, and we should always have done that in the past. So we have to think about how climate architecture will have to change. Torre Bosco in Milan, the Mirror House by Doug Atkins. That's an art project. Doug Atkins is an artist, but maybe our houses should look like that or like this. This is a photo project by Iban Ban, who is one of the most renowned architecture photographs from Africa. He worked with Francis Kéré, an African architect, and he took photos of the light falling into the loam huts here. I think in Middle Germany, we had until 200 years ago, we used that material in Germany too. But we only recently abolished our DIN standard for that, so we can no longer use it as an industrial construction material. But some activists now try to bring it back. Actually, the Federal Ministry of Construction is not of the same opinion, but I think they'll eventually succeed. So what we need is diversity in nature, diversity in culture. And nature's basic principle is diversity. And if we lose diversity, both in humanity and in nature, we'll lose everything that stands for life as it is. So we all should agree on the fact that the blue marble, this blue jewel here, is our common ground, is our common room, something that belongs to each and every one of us and that each and every one of us has to take care of. Common ground means that we need to learn that we have stones that are in common for each and every one of us that bring us together. Right now, there are so many things that create huge shifts in politics but it's not as essential as the common ground we all stand on. Common ground is more important. We have to understand that it's more than just care, love, and hugs, but that we have joint values. In the Temple of Hungars in Berlin, there was a big exhibition called Diversity United, which was the first large exhibition in Europe after the pandemic, where artists such as Alicia Quader reflected the Zeitgeist, where we actually ask questions about what freedom actually means, what our purpose is. We need trust. We need to build up trust. We need to trust in the spirit of community. Ingrid Eggen, a Norwegian photographer, made those pictures, and I actually found her at the Leipzig Photo Festival in September. So trust is essential for the common ground. There are two young women that work on that. In parallel, one beside the other, Billie Eilish and Greta Thunberg. These are two women of the modern day and age who've totally changed our awareness, the way we think. Billie Eilish said, young women were expected to know and do everything and be everyone's mom like when we're 15. And it's very exciting to see what our expectations are regarding the younger generations. But maybe we'll find common ground, we'll find joint values. Here in Germany, we have our basic law, our constitution, and our basic principles of the basic law should be something that everyone should be able to agree upon. And there are different movements that try to explain this. If you're interested in, you should read the book by Andreas Reckwitz that you can see, The End of Political Illusion, it is called in German. And I think once you read that book, you will know why we all have to agree on common values. And we should always work on those basic values, those fundamental values, to create a new overall idea of the world we live in, which is, in my opinion, multipolar vision. Symbiotic seeing is the name of this work of art. I think it's so important that we see together, like these little prisms here, we need many eyes to see the future. Talking of common sense, I would like to actually highlight the body positivity and radical self-love ideas. This is something that several women, including Billie Eilish, and an activist, you see her book in the middle, is Sonja Renée-Taylor. And a model on the right-hand side, her name is Paloma Elsesser. For me, she's a new Venus of the future. She was on the cover of the Italian Vogue. So we need positive feelings. We need to move ahead. We should show that. So Billie Eilish and Greta Thunberg and Paloma Elsesser and Sonja Renée-Taylor, I would always support those because they are headed into the future. For our new now, kissing is something we can do again. So this is what we see in the latest fashion campaigns. This is Courrèges, a French fashion company. So they don't focus on their clothes, but they focus on people who love each other, who hug each other, who kiss each other. And Christopher Kane founded a sub-label because he was of the opinion that we don't have enough joy in life, so we should feel more joy, more sex, feel more special. And I think it's a great approach for optimism, a great project by IKEA. I didn't know that IKEA was doing an art event, but I found it digitally. It's a blanket and that you can wrap around yourself. That's called We're Here For You Forever, as long as it takes. And I think that's the greatest product promotion you can have for a long-lasting product. We stick with you as long as you are here. It's a great statement to make, honestly. And with Billie Eilish, I'd like to stop this part of the presentation. Billie Eilish sings I'm in love with my future. That's where you have it. I'm not coming home. Do you understand? I've changed my plans because I'm in love with my future. Can't wait to meet her. I think it's so cool that Billie Eilish, after all those depressing things, she's still in love with the future, and I love the fact that her future is female. So that's what I'd like the note I'd like to end the Zeitgeist on. I'd like to ask you to take home that idea to fall in love with your future. And the following trend statements can be an invitation for that. So the video was a short break before I now move on to my second presentation.
So now there's 45 minutes. 4 colored themes, 4 areas. And when you open the Zeitgeist envelope, you'll find all 4 themes in there as a summary. So let's start. So the name says it all. Mindful pleasure is the first theme. So we are supposed to enjoy, but be mindful about it and as sustainable as possible. So this topic is looking into trust into the nature, the natural self. Naturality has a kind of original trust we have in nature and what the feelings it sparks in us. So these pictures are not just snapshots of nature. It is actually a campaign for last winter's Ermenegildo, one of the largest wool producers in Italy. They took photos of the area around their company and not their products. And I love the statement. Another ad statement, which I thought was very fitting and communicated the spirit very nicely, is the Chloe campaign Next Chapter. Photographed by Zoe Gardner, who is a young American photographer. So why are they having a new campaign? They've changed designers. They have a new designer, and that designer, she's from Central America. And she is thinking sustainably, and it's supposed to change this Paris-based label. The campaign is beautiful and doesn't show fashion products, it just shows a feeling. And that is the current campaign which just came out, same label, same designer. And it shows us a kind of naturality of forces which fits the topic to a T. It's about urban lifestyle or urban lifestyle, so rural and urban melded into one. That's this new art word, urban and rural combined. And this means being one with nature. So we know that we have something natural in our place at home and use products like that. And a streetwear site actually ran the line, sage is the spring color you need in your life. Reading this in a streetwear blog is something really special. So we're taking this topic with all these materials representing timelessness. So, of course, wood is center stage for the interior and other materials that could grow. I'm sorry about the color representation. I really made an effort to make it accurate. So we see natural white and sepia, as you can see in the color card. It's about the basics, the foundations that we put into black and white and redefine it in natural cotton white and sepia brown. This is changing our perspective and also changing the sharpness of the contrast. We love materials which can bear the signs of times. who are just structured, which will change benevolently when the product ages. So aging is something we haven't seen in a while. This is about natural materials bringing in their own colors, their own life. On the left, you can see Fernando Lapos, a biomaterial fashioned from waste products in the corn industry. Because corn exists in so many hues that you can actually take them and design something. The colors also used in the Chloe campaign are sepia brown, terracotta orange, and natural cotton white. Now in fashion, we're currently rediscovering natural materials and colors which are enough to create patterns, to become decorative. You don't actually have to get artificial colors. This introduces a term we've never used in fashions, which is undyed. Armed angels now have a core collection of undyed clothing. Undyed means that we have to learn there are natural colors beyond white. With cotton and linen and silk, they all look differently. So the natural white of a material is something we have completely forgotten. Then we have dried naturals from plant fiber, plant pigments, which come together really nicely. We have yellow ochre, jade powder, a greenish hue. So all mineral, soft colors, which are never intense or shrill. Let's just think about the variety of minerals, and we're discovering a room of color, a space of color, which is changing between rural and urban. So we have dampened neutrals, and if you add in the plants, you can also end up with pastel colors, which is always low-key. We have terracotta orange, watermelon sugar. If you want to listen to the song by Harry Styles, feel free. And soft lilac. So there's sweet, soft pastel colors in the neutral palette. So maybe we'll find a balance between natural and plant ground materials which can interact. So these two objects do. Pictures taken in Milan and London. On the right, there's a chair system whose legs haven't been straightened, but integrated the grown branches into a system. And the stool itself is made from biopolymer. Sepia brown, jade powder, and natural cotton white as a basic color for natural and artificial products. This is a piece from the Dyed by Nature Armed Angels campaign, the natural pigment by Kremer on the right. And on the left, you can see patterns dyed using algae and bacteria, which only develop during the life cycle of that piece of clothing. And that's new as well. We can see the colors develop away from floral colors towards more mineral colors. This matches the impression on the left from an exhibition. On the right, this is a shopping center in Korea. So how do we think minerals, mineral colors? And at the end of this topic, I would like to give you a few examples from the fashion spectrum, the fashion that exists in that regard. So from a clean sportswear, casual wear on the left, which is becoming more formal by now, a bit more cleaner, to very rough streetwear, this is the second silhouette, avant-garde street, third silhouette, and new classic on the right. And in women's wear, it's similar. You can see that natural dyes are there, tactile materials who speak a very soft-spoken language. So mindful pleasure, in summary, is about resilient naturalness with stimulating mineral colors, and it's about a new simplicity of the substance in the materials. And this is the color range, the color palette: sepia brown, yellow ochre, jade powder, soft lilac, terracotta orange, natural cotton white, watermelon sugar, and olive leaf green. Now, all the color names are also listed in the color card. I just wanted to list them for you, so you can see that the names of the color also play into the character of the topic. So the second impulse topic is future sensible. Future sensible begins with an object which looks strange, but no, this is not a voodoo textile from Africa. It is a 3- and 4-dimensionally weaved object by Hella Jongerius, which used to be exhibited in the Gropiusbau in Berlin until recently. So Hella Jungerius combined 4 looms into a room architecture, and the fabrics that could have been created from each of these looms were combined into a dimensional room. So this is an architectural object woven in 3D. And this means future-oriented. Weaving a room is like knitting a bridge or like printing a house. And this is all possible, it's all conceivable today. So for me, this is not a high-tech machine. Future Sentable is not high-tech. It's something that's done using a traditional craft. It says the future doesn't have any right angles. It will be sensible and sensitive like this. So this requires another ability of ours which we have to relearn, which is thinking beyond the present. Maybe it's not just thinking, maybe we need to trust in our intuition for the future. And I think the topic has a lot to do with intuition and feelings, which is why the colors are very sensual as well. It's about supernatural lightness. This is a computer animation of a landscape, which could be anywhere, maybe even a different planet. Perhaps a new futurism, a new science fiction is formed using colors from mauve shadow, pastel daybreak to purple slate. So things that speak a different language have a different sensitivity towards futurism. In the video, I actually want to say, look out for the moon, because the moon plays a major role as an innovative force, a certain spectrum of light that we have. It's not about sunrise, it's about symbolic silver moonlight, a supernatural glow, and maybe also about the interplay between lights and shadows that the moon gives us. It's about a new feeling for time and space, using objects which represent this longevity and this broad expanse. This is an installation in Korea by Christian Jean-Claude and by a Danish artist. These are all structures that go beyond the present to me. And all of this is not perpendicular. It's rounded. The colors vary between silver moon dust, linen paper, and peach pearl. So it's a changing back and forth between gold and silver in neutral light, using hues that are immaterial and light, like on the left, this texture which is oscillating, and on the other side, this cast piece of furniture which seems light but has gravity and it's firmly rooted in the ground. It's about inner radiance, like the objects here by Olafur Eliasson, a light, a certain feeling for force and power radiating from objects and things. Maybe this new architecture that you see here, Ennead Architects for an astronomy museum in Shanghai, is a new form language, new shape language, which is different from what we've seen in skyscrapers and spaceships. I think this bionic thinking that I mentioned earlier should play a huge role here in order to develop a new shape language. Objects and colors and material all play a role, which have this shimmering, which make these light effects possible, which are very translucent, enable certain types of refraction. So it is a new type of minimalism, but a very, very effective and sensitive material. It doesn't take a lot, but it takes something special. And so I brought 2 artifacts of future past, which I loved. I took these photos myself in the Kennedy Space Center. On the left, you see a space shuttle, and on the right, you can see a landing object, a spacecraft, and both look prehistoric. They don't look like hyper-technological objects of the US space industry. I mean, the spaceship on the left has a textile coating. It's wrapped in technical textile, which looks like an invention by Yoshi Yamamoto. And this little space object on the right looks as if it were made from ceramic and handmade. So the image of our idea of the aerospace industry is simply wrong. We had the wrong idea. We need a new one which has a human touch. And that's where these ideas come from. These ideas are from the 60s, actually, future spheres, rooms which are dissolved in structures and show us toward the future. This includes patterns which repeat, which are refracted. Now, these are objects by a Japanese company which had an installation in Milan. They're called patterns as time. And using light refraction, the color is intensified. And the color varies between pale sky blue to dark violet and all these hues. And we created a harmony. Mauve shadow, pastel daybreak, dark maroon, and purple slate are all included there. So dark pastel, violet, gray, a dark maroon, a pastel, and mauve as the connecting element to sky. The materials of the future are sometimes virtual or virtually created. So these are real 3D printed objects, which I think are objects of future. The one on the left are from Dirk van der Kooi, who is a Belgian designer who prints 3D objects. And on the left, you can see it. It's plastic, but it's no longer transparent. It's recycled plastic. It has almost a skin tone, mauve tone. This is the basic color which makes it possible after recycling. And the chair in the middle, you can still guess at it. This recycling color is uncleaned. And when the chair was printed, a color progression was formed between mauve and blue and white hues. So relearning perfection. Perfection is change. Perfection is imperfection. Also the object on the right, 3D printed with a two-color printer. And that is why you see these blue traces. That's also very exciting. It's about textures which may remind us of waves of desert sand. Think of Dune, the planet. It's going to play a role in this massively poetic film. Maybe it's a coincidence that it can play into that. So these dune structures, be it woven or technologically created or 3D printed. I think 3D printing objects in order to invent new textures can be a beautiful thing. Now this porcelain is produced by a young Berlin-based designer. One of her objects is placed outside in the innovation corner in a small glass case. You can actually go there and touch it. I think the grading of light and shadow will play a large role. That is why these are objects which refract light strongly, like Thomas Ruff, the photo on the left, a photogram that plays a lot with light and shadow. Now, there is already fashion reflecting that spectrum between very futuristic and very realistic, using colors from that spectrum. So on the runway, there's a kind of new minimalism with futuristic appeal, even in menswear, even though in a different form. And at the last few defilés, which just ended a few weeks ago, actually 1 week ago, in early October, even menswear collections were shown, which were shown in desert colors reminiscent of Dune. So that was a very fast and very clear change. So future sensible means have confidence and intuition, look into the future, use the magic shades of dawn, of moonrise, sunrise, feel like you're in a desert on a different planet, and use visionary, sensitive materials and invent them. So that is why there wasn't a singular hard perpendicular object in the entire presentation. So the colors, I'll just read them out. It's not only pastels, it's actually getting really dark. So we have pale sky, silver moon dust, linen paper, peach pearl, mauve shadow, pastel daybreak, dark maroon, and purple slate. Impulse number 3, completely different planet, completely different world. Next to reality and a feeling for the future, we need something for our imagination, something for dreaming. We need reality worlds, fantasy worlds, And if you would like a new fashionable world, we have digital real. That's a part of it. Or the metaverse or hyper-reality. So hyper-reality, I already mentioned this during the Zeitgeist part, there's a function of real and unreal reality. That's nothing new, we live it. What I'm doing here is a mixture of it. But this dream reality includes very different objects and worlds, and maybe has a lot to do with the times we come from, where we move away from this feeling of being encaged. We want to travel to different places, see other worlds, other people, go out. And all those worlds, all those ideas are supposed to converge in this dream reality. So the longing for being somewhere else, longing for sensitivity, for sensuality, for intensity, is symbolized in this installation, The Weather Project, at the Tate Modern in London by Olafur Eliasson. He hung up a sun in Tate Modern. If you haven't seen it, you should research. It was a real party. So dreaming to be somewhere else, intense situations, rooms and colors which really appeal to our senses and overload them. Be it an art installation or maybe the cupola of the Hagia Sophia, where history and structure meet. Or maybe it's the rooms of an ancient grand hotel that you dream into this world of opulence and richness. This is the Casablanca menswear shooting. It's a very young streetwear label. And this was photographed in a grand hotel, maybe with this idea in the background. But sometimes the dreams are not here, but in the past. Netflix, etc., with Bridgerton, and just imagine the times we can escape to in these irreal worlds. And this plays a huge role in stimulating our imagination. And this results in things that feel like memories of somewhere else, objects that remind us of other places, other times. And in fashion, we're rediscovering patterns now. So many years we've worked on simplifying silhouettes, etc., and to dim down on sensuality, and now we're starting all over with opulence and vitality and patterns of historical. Idols can play a role. The golden glow of different cultures or objects can play a role. Maybe the opulence of Swarovski on the one hand, or on the other hand, something from Thailand or another culture. And this helps us discover the golden glow of material, the golden glow of various colors. In the middle, Olaf Eliasson, from the same exhibition as I've showed you previously, colors between golden ochre, bamboo yellow, golden green, and orange brick. So this is a color room which is very sensual, very heavy on gold, exuding a lot of energy and warmth and a richness in memory. This includes radiant objects which transport this richness, new metallics with shimmering surfaces, oscillating surfaces, which can be fantastic, and much more than simple gold or silver. And there's also fashion that works with this spectre, be it sexiness by D squared, or very down-to-earth, the Wuyongmi fall collection, very clean silhouettes. And the colors that you find are almost reminiscent of Tibetan orange colors, a very cultural background. This elsewhere flavor, this flavor of somewhere else, is also found in exotic fruit and flowers, of course, and we also take colors to landscapes, souvenirs from nature. These are two artists juxtaposed, David Hockney and Stefan Schwarzer, two names of two different generations, who transport this intensity as a memory of nature. And the warm hues like of yellow and gold, this also includes pink orchid and intense Pompeian red, a very deep blood red which expands the spectrum and makes it very soft and warm. Now, in this topic, we count on the craft, on crafting opulence, which shows us that they're man-made, they contain irregularities, they live, they truly live, and they are from our life world. You can see mosaic techniques, you can see braiding techniques. Sheila Hicks, she's over 80 years old now. She had a great retrospective at Centre Pompidou, a great Zeitgeist artist. If you want to discover her colors, please do so. So color to color and developing color to color harmonically is something we haven't seen in fashion in a long time, and it's also new in interior. It's not just the big bang of contrast and opposites, but rethinking harmony. That's discovering something which we've lost in fashion. So it's about the radiance of patterns such as paisley. You can see it is under retro. Paisley connects colors like the house of a snail. So you see bamboo yellow, which has a sort of greenish hue, orange brick, pink orchid, intense Pompeian red, and purple beetroot. So a light red-violet blend, which makes the colors come full circle. You can read this color as a very ethnic color row, but it's open for all. A patchwork of materials and colors. So if you didn't discover during the pandemic that IKEA had a collaboration with one of the most with a luxury perfumer and actually had a scented candle that could have been sold elsewhere, I can only recommend it. So color and patchwork, it can be recycled, it can be new. A wonderful new topic. And this is not about what feels like the 70s, it's about rediscovering the zeitgeist today. Because when we think circular, patchworking colors has its appeal. So patchwork went into carpets. You see on the left carpet producers, which uses pieces of old carpets that you can puzzle together like jigsaw puzzle pieces. You can also see different kinds of patterns and color sorting. It is opulence in collages, and fashion can bring all this together. And I think this can be an inspiration for other objects, for other things, to handle patterns in a more lively way. It's about structures and textures, which can put color material into patterns. So the fashion spectrum on this topic of dream reality, from left to right, you can see tone and tone in one silhouette, but still very rich in material. Then stitching and retro leather. Then you can see these typical large paisley patterns, but other color combination, and a hoodie adds something new. Then you see a British pattern mix, Molly Garrett and temporarily London on the right. So maybe a new movement starts where arts and crafts will find a reference. And in menswear we see something similar. We see the clean streetwear tone-and-tone dress, new classic, checkers, checks. And what you can actually see, I talked about grading colors earlier. You see this golden glow that suddenly shines from this pattern. And dream reality means living in a visual wonderland, not just wanting to live there, like Alice in Wonderland. This could be your object. It's about enchanting radiant colors, about a hyper-real mix of materials and memories of good things, good times, objects, scents, tastes. And just so I don't forget, on the left, this is an object which I photographed 3 weeks ago in Milan. This is the first object from the visual wonderland for me. It looks as if it's virtual, and that's how it was formed. It is a virtual animation by a young designer called Audrey Large, and she calls it vibrant matter. It's been 3D printed. In London city architecture, she scanned architecture and decorated objects and recombined them into new objects and 3D printed them. And this 3D print is done with a new material I've never seen before. And it looks like digital silk. So when you stand in front of the object, you think it's not actually there. You have a feeling it's still on a screen. It looks like something digital that's become reality. And for the first time in my life, I was in front of an object where I couldn't actually tell, can I touch this or not? So this was the first object from the visual wonderland, which I wish to see for the future, bringing together these spaces with such opulent colors, which we don't really connect with digital. And that's so beautiful that this richness, this opulence of our ideas apply to both worlds. So, of course, virtual light is a good aspect to carry that on. So the fourth and last impulse, we have 15 more minutes. We can do this. So this is an active call to action. Show your colors. So get out your colors, show your individuality, show your force, your power, all your energy, and do it. Use strong colors. Show your colors also means make a stand, means to say what you are, say what you want. And this is all in this fourth topic. Show your colors. So the best exhibition you could visit was Yayoi Kusama and Martin Gropius Bau in Berlin this summer. I was happy enough to get one of these time slots in this madness that is pre-booking. Now, try to book a time slot that was just vacated on a train while traveling on train. So it's insanely difficult. I could only book it for myself, though not for my friends. But I went there and I was enthusiastic about the enjoyment of living that Yayoi Kusama, who is 80 years old now, shows. So this is a bouquet of love I saw in the universe, a wonderful woman, wonderful exhibition. Now, the previous exhibition, we didn't see each other last year, so let me quote it. It was Katharina Grosse in Berlin and at the Hamburger Bahnhof. I'm sure you've seen pictures on Instagram. It was so visually active and attractive. This explosion of color in a room. She carved bodies from styrofoam and sprayed them on with color. And this is the inspiration for our almost primary spectrum. Don't get me wrong, primary in this context doesn't mean primary colors, it means primary intensity. Green is wonderful cadmium green. It's not your neutral spectral green. Yellow is a signal yellow, but not pure yellow. So you have to cut the color some slack here, give it a character. Cobalt blue turquoise, manganese violet, and fire lily orange. So come up with things for these new primary intense things and give them character, give them room. It's about new colors for common knowledge. It's about new primary spectrums. And to me, this is not the special thing, this is the new basic. This is new basic stuff. New basic stuff is not black and white. It's manganese violet and colors for your dream world. So one of the most influential non-commercial designers here is Walter van Berendonck from Belgium. He's a professor in Antwerp. And at some point, when was it? 2011, he made a collection that was called Dream the World Awake. And I think we should take this home, take this with us, dreaming the future awake, handling these lively colors. And maybe it will help us invent a new language of monochromous objects. Maybe we can breathe new life into that. On the right, you see the architects of Claesson Kovisterune. They made furniture which has just one color, just unicolor. In the center, you can see porcelain done that way. There's ceramic, chairs, furnitures. All of a sudden, once you look for it, they pop up everywhere. There is a wave of monochrome, monomaterial objects in really strong colors, like these blue hues here. Or you can see it in other examples. Strong red, strong green. And the colors are supported by these objects and they look massive. This is not about subtlety, this is about power and force. And this goes together with the density and the intensity of the material. So be courageous, be bold, and make things massive. So in the fashion, this play with monochrome silhouettes has suddenly arrived as well. So these are examples from several collections from Kenzo, Ambush, Sakai, so French, Japanese, and English. We can see cadmium green, raspberry sorbet, manganese violet, and fire lily orange. So the colors just fit. But it doesn't mean that they should only be on the body. You can also move in space in these colors. Now, in Bauhaus tradition, there are nice ways to have rooms and colors to texturize and structurize these and give them order. And these intense colors are very well suited for that. So if you should come to Paris in the near future and have a little bit of time on your hands, go visit the Annie and Josef Albers exhibition and look at their color concepts, the concepts they developed during their life. They were Bauhaus students who emigrated to the US and developed this idea on, and they built beautiful color concepts. Maybe it's also time for a new color graphic, a new sign language. Now, these two pictures are from a great book from Switzerland. A designer who learned Helvetica redesigned punk music posters in Helvetica style. And I really love that, the singularity of color and translated to graphic clarity. I love that. Now, this color clarity also comes with a certain kind of abstraction. In itself, a kind of clarity. Even translating it to furniture, the rooms that are created by clear color, they can structure things and reassemble things and support this abstraction. All those who want to know, this is the title page of the book I mentioned with the graphics. It's called Twisted. The book is called Twisted. And it reminded me a bit of a digital fabric a friend of mine created on the left. This is a digital jacquard which has all these colors. So show your colors in harmony, in rapport, in structure, in contrast, but always with enough intensity to keep them alive. So in the middle there's incredible ceramics by Ettore Sozzas, the great Italian architect, master and designer, created between 1957 and 59. So there's reference points in the past if you want to look for them, but they are not in the 70s or 90s, they're even further back. And I think this power of color, and which we've lost a little bit with our digital screens in the modern world, because we don't have the strong connection to the classical elements in painting, etc., when these contrasts were formed. I mean, these are 100 years of difference in painting. On the left, we have 1921-22, Otto Freundlich's The Cosmic Eye, and on the right, Kenta Kobayashi, Digital Painting, Digital Photography 2020. And to me, this is the range of color intensity that we can live from the handcraft, the hand-painted to the digitally painted. These two primary energies can meet here. Digital and real are not opposites here. And to lift up the color to couture level, so this is where we need glitter and artificial sparkling. Sparkling, glittering, iridescent. So make these objects special. Now on the left, I hope you can see it a little bit. I took that picture in Milan. This is a stark violet carpet, like they stole it from CosmeticBusiness, and placed on that this iridescent object. It just knocks your socks off, the energy. And the crowds in Milan were insane. And what happened when these colors turned up, the impulses we received, it was amazing. Now, fashion is adding a bit of glamour to that. There is one area in fashion that looks into that. It's called haute couture. I mentioned it briefly before. So if you're looking for inspiration, make sure to watch the last 2 Valentino haute couture seasons, this Italian company. The detail on the far right is from there. Now, this interplay of colors by Paolo Piccolio, that is really a matter of the heart. And I think so much modernity and presenting it with haute couture is just incredible. I have 1 or 2 haute couture objects in my shrine over there in the hall. Feel free to come see me and continue to talk about this. Now, once the colors have been unleashed and flow into each other, we have this kind of psychedelic force that is set free. But I think the primary is in the foreground, like the fashion spectrum shows from Sakai, Stella McCartney, Plan C, and Atline. Very different color and shape language. And we almost wouldn't believe it, but even in menswear, it's even more avant-garde than in women's wear. Fendi, Moncler, Kenzo, and Dolce & Gabbana. Something's really happening. When all of a sudden you have massive green as a new fashion color, and black and white are suddenly left behind. And maybe this new Show Your Colors shows that we find the courage for more presence, more visibility. These strong forces, trusting the force of color, and stand up for a new maximalist graphic clarity. So the spectrum of this topic, cadmium, green signal, yellow, honest white, or recycled plastic white, cobalt blue, turquoise, raspberry sorbet, clean beige, manganese violet, and fire lily orange. So in a way, black and white and beige are included as a kind of frame to make these strong colors really shine. So if you like that, you can follow me to the hall, to the innovation corner, and obtain the CBM Impulse as a visual reminder of what I just told you and get it from the nice ladies. So the real card costs 35 euros. I'm happy that so many of you were here with me and still are. I do hope that your visual synapses are overloaded now and you can take home inspiration drawn from these colors, and the Zeitgeist will be guiding you. Please have fun, show your colors, and fall in love with your future. Thank you so much. I'll be happy to be available for individual conversation and questions over there in the hall.